Hello and welcome, Lynette, to my show.
I am so thrilled to be here, Liz. Thank you so much for the invitation. I'm very, very excited.
I've been looking forward to it. I have to say that you are an incredible force in the career development and tech space, leading the charge in closing the women's wage gap through your innovative platform, Pagame Project. So let's start with this. What inspired you to create Pagame Project, and how does it leverage AI and human intelligence to tackle the wage gap?
Yeah. So, Pagame Project is an artificial intelligence and human intelligence powered career development tech platform based here in Chicago, Illinois. And we're seeking a very bold ask to assist in closing the women's wage gap in the US and globally. Um, I thought of this organization, this concept, one, because I have proximity to the problem as a woman of color, as a mom, but I was raised by a very powerful and fierce Nuyorican woman. My mom was an essential healthcare worker for over 30 years in the Boston, Massachusetts medical district. And she, as they say in my hometown of Boston, wicked smart. She's bien inteligente, very, very smart. But unfortunately, she, like for many women, and particularly women of color, and in more particular to Latinas, she was definitely underappreciated and overworked. And she unfortunately did become an ancestor this past November 2022 due to ovarian cancer. Um,
I'm sorry
Not
to hear that,
realizing,
Lynette. I'm sorry to
yeah,
hear that.
no, thank you. It's always hard for me to talk about that, but she passed away not realizing her worth, right? And she
Mm.
passed away severely underpaid, and so and having that kind of experience, I just feel very inspired, but also um, co-empowered enough to do something about it.
Yeah, so her legacy continues. You are continuing her legacy through this initiative. And when
Yeah,
I was learning about it, I'm like, this is incredible. What
thank
a
you.
way to honor your mother.
Yeah.
And, and that you were inspired by some of, the barriers that she experienced as a woman. And
Hmm.
so I'm going to say, your mother, Rita Valentin, so
Yeah.
she is a meaningful part of this initiative. And so, how does her legacy influence the mission behind Rita AI?
Yeah. So we're developing Gen AI right now. We're naming it after my mom in honor of her, Rita AI. And Rita AI is a Gen AI career coach. She will have a very similar persona
Mhm.
electronically, where she'll be able to support women who are entry level professionals all the way to C suite professionals in leveling up their pay. She'll do this in various ways. She will support the female identified monthly and annual subscribers with a personalized one on one career coaching in several different topics, obviously, including salary negotiation that's research based and data informed. She'll be able to provide a gender pay calculator that'll be customized to the platform, a career assessment, an opportunity to do career sponsor matchmaking. So that's another thing that I can talk about later, as well as on the HI part, connecting the subscriber to a human career coach. And as I'm a trained career coach with over 21 years of professional experience, I thought to myself, well, how can I help my fellow executive coaches and career coaches from across the US and around the world? And so this is an opportunity for folks that are either solopreneurs or they'd like to earn an extra income on the side to co-empower our amazing member subscribers on Pagame Project as well.
I think it's such an incredible tool coming, as a career coach. And this is actually how you and I met,
Yes.
previously. It was actually during COVID. We had an informational interview, and I know that
Mhm.
your background is in career development. We've
Yeah.
actually come across in certain spaces, but I think it's incredible that you're using that your career background and expertise and just kind of even the gap of information that
Yeah.
you're bridging that and that you're providing that tool, not just for job seekers, but career coaches.
Yeah.
We're using AI for the work that we're doing.
That's right.
And this is such an important topic that we talk about with our clients, especially women, when it comes to salary negotiation, knowing your worth. And so I think that the gender wage gap is a long-standing issue. So
Yep.
what are some of the biggest barriers you see in closing this gap? And how does the Pagame Project directly tackle them?
Yeah. So I see Pagame Project as a small solution that can provide a big impact in regards to closing the women's wage gap in the US. A lot of it is access to information, being able to be held accountable, to filling out that resume, to updating it, to applying to jobs, right? Because sometimes we do need that inspiration and kick in the butt because we're doing so many things, right? I mean, women are so dynamic and so amazing. And whether you have fur babies or human babies, I mean, we're caretakers in various ways, both within our respective families and outside of our homes as well. So I do see Rita AI to be able to support whatever it is, the subscriber wants to do. Um, but in my mind, it can't just be AI and it can't just be a human career coach. I think providing an opportunity for them to complement each other, and seeing Rita AI as an opportunity to um, co-empower along with a human career coach, I think will be pretty dynamic. Some of the things that I've seen, quite frankly, I mean, there's obviously policy issues that feeds the women's wage gap. There's some really incredible research that was done by Dr. Claudia Golding. She's out of Harvard University, and she wrote a book called Career and Family. So I highly suggest for folks to check that out. And she also, Dr. Golding, just won the Nobel Peace Prize in economics last year. Um, on her over 100, almost 200 years of research on why the women's wage gap exists. So please check that out. But some of the things that I've read in her book has a lot to do with societal norms, right, of women and gender roles, right? Being able to, and she talks about this in regards to the motherhood penalty if a woman has children at home, but also trying to attain a career and a marriage or a partnership. There's, some really complicated things that are going on, and we need to talk about it in order to be part of the solution.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that resource. I'll definitely put it in the show notes and I need to check that out as well. That's fantastic. Thank you for that. I feel that these are, very important conversations to have. And so I know you mentioned like, there's a systemic or even just like cultural expectations or just that we as
Mhm.
women play so many roles. And but how is that, like, how do you see that being something that we need to be aware of? Or like, how is that? I'm trying to frame this question. Um, what are some things that we need to be aware of as women?
Mhm.
And knowing, I know that these barriers exist, but like,
Yeah.
what do we need to know as women, like to just kind of raise that awareness?
Yeah. So a lot of the time, and myself included, we don't take the time to talk about these difficulties and challenges. We self silence a lot. And I honestly think that's part of the issue. Just even doing this interview with you is so uplifting for me, right? Because it's not just talking about Pagame Project, but it really is, speaking about what those challenges are and saying it publicly in a way that I hope really inspires someone to have that conversation, to have that self awareness, to say that it's okay to have this not be okay, right? Especially a lot of us are suffering either at home or in our careers or what have you, and not asking for help, right? And so for me, Rita AI is that, opportunity to ask for help, to invest in ourselves, to invest in our careers, to say that, we certainly want and should be able to do it all. Um, but I think someone told me once, and I want to say it was probably even my mom. She said, um, the the smart woman would not only ask for help, but continue to delegate a team to be part of her sanity management team, right? And so that can be, in various things in various ways for various people. But my hope is Rita AI can be part of one's sanity management team.
Love that. I see your mom was a very wise woman.
Yes.
Um, I think, when I was trying to ask a question about like being self-aware and some of the things to think about, and that's why these conversations are important. I guess what I'm thinking about is some of the conversations that I've had with women where, they'll say, "Oh, Liz, I want to apply for that job, but I'll be making double of what I'm currently making, and I don't think that I'm worth that."
Mhm. Mm.
Or I don't know if I should apply to that because I probably don't have all the qualifications
Yeah.
that somebody else has. Somebody's probably better than me. So even just like the self-worth part, people
Mhm.
screening themselves out, or like you said, sometimes this mentality, we can do it all, so we don't have to get paid to do the extra stuff or what's
Mm.
expected of us. So these
Right.
are just some things that, that I know I sometimes tell myself, or that I hear some of my clients say. Can we
Mhm.
talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So, um, as a career coach, I've definitely seen that as well. One of the things that I try to encourage my clients on, or any students or alumni that I've co-empowered in the past, is why not you, right? At the end of the day, you're saying no to yourself, but if you apply to that position or that internship or that job or that fellowship, it no is part of not yet, right? So you're giving yourself an opportunity to apply for an opportunity that is hopefully paid, and then see what happens, right? What if they say yes? What if you're able to earn that money and add tax, by the way? I actually, side note, I have a good friend of mine, a tocaya, actually. She sent me a gift of this really cute grocery bag, and it said no, because she knows I love this work around women empowerment, women economic development. And it said, uh, know your worth and add tax, right?
I love that.
Know your worth and add tax. And I think that's so apropos uh,
Yeah.
this conversation. So, uh, for me, I think a lot about my future self
Mhm.
and how I want her to do well. I'm a mom. I have an 8-year-old son, and I think a lot about, how can I provide for him now and in the near future. And although I have an amazing partner and husband, together we are able to do a lot. But I want to be able to say to my son that if I'm able to dream big, I need to role model that, right? Um, and if I'm asking him to dream big, I need to act accordingly. So it's an opportunity for folks to believe in themselves, go for it, uh, be inspired, because you just never know what the future holds.
Love that. I feel that, that's the inspiration too. And that's part of the generational wealth. And you're modeling for your son, and everybody has their own, right, their life circumstances and situations. But I really wanted to address this because there are already systemic barriers in place, right, the gender biases, and so we don't want to add to that by creating our own barriers.
That's right.
And our imposter phenomenon, imposter syndrome, and self-doubt. And I love how you said, it's a not yet, but I would rather somebody tell me no than me
Say no to
say no
yourself.
to myself.
That's right.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
Well, thank you for kind of chatting with me about that. I just, we have these conversations with people, and I'm like, oh, you're amazing. I think you would
Yeah,
be phenomenal in that role. And
that's right.
so this is why why career coaches exist.
Hmm.
So you're currently seeking founding 40 strategic advisory council members. What kind
Yeah.
of expertise or perspectives are you hoping to bring into this group, and how can people get involved?
So I'm trying to practice what I preach and ask for help. but in a very structured manner. So right now, Pagame Project is a new tech startup in Chicago, and I don't know everything, right? And so I'd rather do what I love and partner for the rest. And so I'm looking for individuals that can be amazing thought partners, 40, in various industries. So it can be within STEAM, law, medical, of course, finance, banking, investment banking, even blockchain, crypto, etc., emerging technologies, of course, healthcare, higher education, K to 12 education. I'm really looking for folks that are not only subject matter experts in those respective areas and more, but that are really passionate about assisting in closing the wage gap for women, right? And so it's a once a year group meeting, virtual hour-and-a-half commitment.
Oh,
And once someone becomes a strategic advisory council member, if they're able to have some level of availability for me to contact them to be a thought partner as I go on this very new tech entrepreneurial journey, I'd so appreciate that. But the commitment really is an hour and a half per year, starting in October of 2025.
that's fantastic. And if people are interested, what is the first step? What do they need to do?
Yeah, if they can reach out to me on LinkedIn, that would be great. I'm sure Liz, you'll post my LinkedIn link uh,
Yes.
in below, but I'd love to start connecting with folks and having virtual meetings and go from there.
Fantastic. We'll definitely be sharing that on LinkedIn. I'm confident that you're gonna find your 40 people. You're very well connected. You know, a lot of great professionals. So I'm confident, but we can continue spreading the word. On
Yeah.
a side note, I just kind of want to mention here, sometimes when I'm interviewing people, they've been, on their respective journeys and, they have all these accomplishments and you're very well accomplished. But I appreciate that this is a new chapter for you.
Yeah,
And, we're talking about this, but you're just starting out.
literally. Yeah,
And a lot of times people talk about the journey and, kind of like where they're at and the experiences, but this is raw. This is new and you're
yeah.
talking about it and it would be fantastic to bring you back maybe in a year
Oh,
just
I
to
love that.
see that growth. I think it's so great to be able to showcase, when starting out with something fresh.
Absolutely. Yeah. I would love that. I welcome that with open arms. And, if there's anything I've learned in my journey, I mean, I've been working since I was 14 years old. I'll be 44 next month. I own my age. And
That's right.
for me, I want to be able to show my vulnerability, and be humble in this process because I, I wasn't born into generational wealth, but I'm co-creating that now for my family, right?
Yeah.
And if not me, then who? But if I'm able to do it, I want folks to be able to do it as well, right? And I'm easily accessible for anyone that wants to connect. Because as to your point, I've been able to accomplish a lot as a first generation high school and college graduate, and I was able to attain some doctoral training at the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign that I'm an alum of for my master's in tech. And so happy to connect with anyone, but I really I applaud you for being able to have this platform for me to share my story and the beginning of my tech entrepreneurial journey. So I appreciate you. Thank you.
Yeah, no, I love it. I think that's what I love about doing this is being able to connect with professionals that are on their quest. And your story is going to inspire other people that are also maybe nervous or afraid, or maybe they're a little bit more, the risk for them, they're risk averse. So I
Hmm.
think it's important. Of course,
Oh, look at your fur
so
baby.
this is my fur baby. I talk about her on my podcast, so she's making her appearance.
I love
Uh,
it.
no, so I think again, people will give me feedback and say, "Oh, Liz, that was an amazing guest that you had. I was inspired by them. Can you connect me?" So if that's my contribution is me being able to inspire others and make these connections, then I'm serving my purpose. Uh,
Absolutely.
but since I still have you here, of course, there's so much that we can talk about.
Let's do
I
it.
do have a few more questions for you.
Yeah.
Uh, so you're deeply involved in tech innovation and DEIJ centered career development.
Hmm.
What advice would you give to other women? And I'm going to say, especially Latinas, speaking from the Latina lens, yourself,
Hmm.
looking to break into tech entrepreneurship.
Ooh. So I'll say that I'm very privileged to be in this geographical location of Chicago, Illinois,
Mm,
because we're actually a budding tech ecosystem compared to our West Coast and East Coast counterparts. It's exciting. It is, and I mean, gosh, there's so many amazing, generous, kind-hearted folks in the tech ecosystem in Chicago. I'm actually kind of floored, and really happy that that is how it is here. I can't speak to our West Coast or East Coast counterparts, but at least in the Chicago tech ecosystem, it's really accessible. I remember one time I'm on the associate board of directors for Chicago Innovation, and I'm an alum of the Women's Mentoring Co-op. So I say that to say one can also become a mentee or a mentor in the Women's Mentoring Co-op for Chicago
mm.
Innovation. I would highly suggest that. You can Google them. Laura Jordan is the person to connect with, so please reach out to her directly, or you can reach out to me and I can connect you. Um, but I remember I was attending one of the networking events, and I had told this woman, I had just met her like 10 seconds. And I said, "Oh, I'm starting like a career dev tech, ed tech kind of startup." And a minute later, she goes, "You have your phone?" I'm like, "Yeah." And I pulled out my phone and she's like, "Are you on WhatsApp?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And so she connected me to a WhatsApp community within the space, like right then and there,
Oh,
right?
cool.
Didn't know her from a hole in the wall, like super nice, super awesome. And to this day, we're connected. So uh, definitely reach out. Chicago Innovation is one way, Women's Mentoring Co op program through Chicago Innovation. But there's so many other organizations out there. There's M Hub, there's 1871, there's gosh, there's just a handful of others. So reach out to me, happy to share.
That's a great tip. I feel like there's such a community of support, and it's always like you said, tapping into your network, asking for help, and people that
Hmm.
have been doing it and they're maybe further along that can provide that mentorship. I think that's a huge piece of this journey is leaning into your network, but your mentors. I think that's very important as well.
It's so important. And what's kind of cool is that some of these programs are free, some of these programs are paid. There's of course tech boot camps if you want to be more on
Mm,
the hard tech side. There's professional associations such as Latinas in Tech. There's a strong network here in Chicago, but they're national. There's also Tequeria, which is for Latine professionals that either want to work in tech or currently work in tech. And of course, there's ERGs and BRGs at respective organizations um,
right.
if you're already in the tech field. But to break in, I mean, there's definitely various ways to do that.
Well, that's very inspiring. Thank you for sharing that insight. And again, I will share that with my listeners. So you have a lot on your plate. You're doing so much, and you're innovating, and you're risk taking. And
Hmm.
I always feel like we have to kind of remind ourselves of our human selves, right? The
Hmm.
compassion that we need to have for ourselves.
Yeah.
What keeps you motivated to push forward,
Yeah.
especially when tackling large scale issues like the wage inequality?
Yeah. Um, well, first and foremost, definitely my son. He is my heart in human form and really inspires me to be a better person every day, most especially as a parent and a mom. Um, but I'll be very honest with you, aside from that, just the mere fact that there were so many people that were so supportive throughout my career, this is my way of paying it forward. And I do volunteer a lot as well. So, for example, I'm a member of the Equal Pay Chicago Committee at Women Employed, and that's a pro bono opportunity. It's an opportunity for me to pay it forward. And in my mind, there's a quote that's out there, but I'll just say it in my own words. Uh, Volunteering is the rent you pay to live in this world, right? And so, what motivates me is an opportunity to not only pay it forward, but to be there for folks in the same way, if not more, that other folks were there for me. And I'll give a shout out also to my husband and my partner because he's able to be my not only my biggest cheerleader, but I'm able to be my authentic self, both at home, so I can be my authentic self outside of the home. And that's so important to find someone that can be that for you and with you. Um, and I know I can't do it by myself. So being able to, for example, as I shared earlier, to co-create a strategic advisory council can really support the mission of Pagame Project.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think family is very important to you, and that your
Hmm.
son is your motivation, inspiration, but also you're living your purpose and you're making that
Hmm.
impact. And it's clear by the work that you've done, but also the volunteer work that you're doing,
Hmm.
and that you want to pay it forward. I think that's the way that it should be, right? Because we don't arrive into our situations on our own.
Right.
Someone inspired us along the way, someone helped us, someone mentored us, and so I
Hmm.
think that it is, something that we should continue on and helping build others and empower others. I think is
Absolutely.
important. And I love that you said about your spouse. It's interesting because I interviewed my other guest about entrepreneurship, and that's one of the things he talks about. He says you have to your partner has to be on board,
Hmm.
because it's really difficult to go on this venture without that support
Yeah.
of, your family. And so I think it's fantastic that you're able to work your mission with the support of your family. That's incredible.
Hands down. I mean, I am doing this for them. I'm doing this with them,
Yeah,
and I mean, and that and my higher power as well. So I'm a very spiritual person in addition, and I think that's also something that feeds my work, but also feeds my soul. So that's important to note.
absolutely. I'm also very spiritual, and I know you and I were chatting earlier, and I was saying how the universe connected us
Yeah.
and having this conversation today. And so I'm very grateful that we were finally able to connect, because we've been trying to do this. We've been trying to get this on the books for
Ages,
a minute.
ages. Yeah,
But I think that this was the timing for us. I really believe that.
agreed.
Uh, Lynette, it was such a pleasure chatting with you, and I wish you much success
Thank
in
you.
this new chapter in your career, and that you're innovating, and that you're going to make such a huge impact, especially in a topic that is so important to
Yeah.
us women
Hmm.
who are working, thriving, but we need to know our worth. And I cannot wait to see what you're going to accomplish very soon.
Crossing fingers from your mouth to God's ears. Let's see what happens. I'm ready for it.
All right, people. So make sure you connect with Lynette. She's on LinkedIn. I will be putting your information in the show notes so people have access to you. Thank you again, Lynette, and we'll definitely be in touch because I want to hear updates.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for the opportunity, Liz. Really appreciate you. Bless you.